my name is Joey. Welcome to my channel. I know my beading mat looks like a bit of a mess, but it's really not. It is the beginning of a design. So I'm working with the Coastal Ember Didi's Deluxe Bead Box. It was the June 2025 edition. And this necklace is going to be really mixed up, but I think it's going to be stunning. So I've added into the box from my own stash 3 natural elements that I picked up on Cocoa Beach last week. This and this, which I'm going to do a little creative wire wrapping on this, and it's going to be my toggle. This is going to be the T-bar of my toggle, and I'm going to use this chunky ring to make a front closure necklace. And then I'm experimenting. I have a jump ring through here because I want to make another little dangle and add it onto this. And I've been experimenting with this other element that I found on the beach that has this beautiful natural hole inside. Now all of my elements have been coated with just a clear nail lacquer from the dollar store, just to make them look like they're still wet from the ocean water. So I'm experimenting with how I want to wire wrap this, and what I came up with, and I didn't do it because I'll do it along with you, is one wire going through the top of the center hole and one wire coming up through the bottom, so it makes a crisscross, and then I'll be able to create loops here and encase this, and I'm going to fill some of my coral and turquoise seed beads in the center to embellish it. I think that's going to be really cool. And then also from my own stash, just last week I got a huge bag at Michael's craft store. If you're an American viewer, you know what that is. On their clearance aisle, a big bag of coconut buttons. So I'm experimenting with adding in some of the coconut buttons from my stash. I'm going to make a little component. I'll talk to you about that. And that just goes along with what came in the box, these beautiful coconut heishi beads that are going to be in my strung part. So that's the rundown, and I'm going to get started because I have a lot of little small like components to create. So I'm going to start with my very bottom drop or charm on my focal of my necklace. I just need to get out a head pin and make a little bauble to attach there. The designer bead strand, and that is just one of the beads from the strand, and the little bead caps. And I'm just going to put a simple loop in this. Okay, now this can get attached right here, and that's going to hang at the bottom like that. So I'm going to work on this next, and what I found really cool about these beads is that the holes are quite large, so I can actually fit 2 wires of my 22 gauge. This is a Bella cat. You can't bring the lizards in the house. She loves the early morning. My little cat, she loves to talk to the lizards on the patio. So I have 22 gauge German style wire here, and I'm going to start by putting a wrapped loop in this end. I'm going to feed that on, but I'm also going to put a second piece of wire and just let it hang out in here. And what I'm going to be able to do is use this second wire to embellish the front of the bead. But I'm going to go ahead and put my wrapped loop on this side as well. So just to secure this a little bit, I'm going to put my wraps around the wire that I've added in. And now I'm just going to play with some creative wire wrapping. Bring this one up here, bring this one down to the back. I'm going to trim this a little bit and add a spiral here. You really can't mess this up because, you know, if I were to do a bunch of these, no two would turn out alike, and it's just very artisan. Each one is unique, and you know, there's no right or wrong, so it's really fun to play with wire working like this. So this is ready for being attached. I'm going to close this jump ring. I made some jump rings out of, actually made this one as well, out of the same wire that I'm using for everything. And I might make some more if I need them, but then my wire is all matching. I felt like that jump ring was too big, so I just went for one of the smaller ones, and my pendant is off to a good start. And so now I'm going to do on this half of my coconut button the same thing that I did here. Just going to put the wire through the hole and draw it up to the middle. Pull it together and I'm going to trim one of the wires. This is like a briolette wrap. And as I wrap, I'm just going to wrap around my cut end and my other end and just get right down to the edge of the button. That is such a cool little button component, and more jump rings. Just working my way up my pendant. I love double jump rings in a design, so I may go back when I'm all finished and add another jump ring at each connection. We'll see. Gorgeous. Okay, let's get another piece of 22 gauge wire and create the T-bar to the closure. So I'm going to come right to the middle of this little found beach object and right about here, just looking for a natural place to, whoops, come back. Just looking for a natural place to rest my wire. And I want to get it nice and tight around here, so draw it up and pinch it together with my pliers. There's just nothing scientific about doing this. I'm just looking for the natural path of the wire and a natural spot on my element, my broken seashell, just to, make it secure. So I'm just going around that little bump out part, and I'm going to come around, and I just have to get in a position to make a loop that's fairly in the center of the wire. Put a little twist in there. I think it's really, really pretty. Before you move on, when you're doing this, you can, unwrap if you don't like something and go again before you, the way this is crossing here, I'm not sure I love that. I'm gonna just zhuzh it a little bit. That's a little better. And I think I'm going to wrap with my shorter piece of wire up a little bit, and then I can wrap back down on top of that, and it'll make this a little bit thicker. It's 22 gauge wire. I have this wire, it's the antique brass. I have it I'm working with 20 gauge for my jump rings and 22 gauge for everything else, all this embellishment with the wire. I'm going to zhuzh what I've done so far down, snuggle it down to my piece, because I have to remember that this is my toggle, and so it has to fit through this ring. I might even have to get a bigger ring. We'll see. If I need a bigger ring, I have one. And now I'm just going to do a small loop for attaching a jump ring. Okay, my gorgeous little natural element T-bar is done, and it is ready to get attached to my necklace. And I think that that might be going on this side. Haven't totally decided yet if I'm going to close, which side I'm going to close on. And now let's go ahead and make this next natural element. So as I said, 22 gauge wire, and I have crisscrossed it through. So one wire coming up through the back, one wire going down through the front, and the longer wire is going to be for wrapping my loops. So I'm going to go ahead, before I add my seed beads in the middle, I'm going to go ahead and just with my thumb and forefinger, I'm just going to get this one, the top, it's going to be the top, I'm designating it the top, just get it wrapped around. Okay, now I'm going to add some seed beads, front and back. I think my front ones are going to be some of these coral. Okay, I'm just going to hold everything snug and get my shorter wire wrapped around the longer wire on this side. Okay, that is really cool. I love it. Okay, so I brought this around so I can do a spiral on this side, and this is right here so that I can do a spiral on that side. And in fact, just to get the wires out of the way, I'll go ahead and make those spirals, and then I'll be able to wrap my loops without these small wires in the way. What a cool, natural, one-of-a-kind component. Okay, and then just a wire wrapped loop on each end. Isn't that gorgeous? I absolutely love this one-of-a-kind. When I'm walking on the beach, I look for things that have a natural opening or a really cool shape. Like this is one that I was thinking I could lay my wire in the middle and come up here and make a spiral around it. I have so much fun looking at what I consider jewelry supplies when I'm walking on the beach. But that little element is ready to go. Okay, and now I got this started so that I could show you the idea. I want to make another component for attaching into when I start stringing and connecting. So what this is 3 coconut buttons, and 2 of them have a little flower, and I just made a sandwich and put just a plain one in between just to thicken it. And then I've created a pattern here that gives me a gold seed bead right at the tip of my loop, and I'm going to do the same thing on this end, but I'm going to omit this seed bead on this end, and that's where I'm going to crimp this component. So it just looks like this. I just have, since there's 4 holes in the button, I just selected holes across from each other to put my wire through. And I'm going to recreate it on this side. So it's a really simple pattern of 1 gold seed bead next to the coconut button, and you know, just from a design viewpoint, just something brighter that sits next to the dark coconut wood just makes everything show up a little bit better. And then I did 5 seed beads and then another gold on each side. Okay, and then it looks like that. I'm not going to put the final gold seed bead because that's where my crimp tube is going to go, and I'm going to do something else. I'm going to zhuzh all of this down so that I don't waste too much of this bead stringing wire. This is the same thing that I strung my first project on. It's my Soft Flex Fluorite color. It's a really pretty seafoam green, and so wherever it shows, you know, it just goes with the project. So let me grab a number 2 crimp tube, and I'm just going to feed the number 2 crimp tube on 1 wire, and then with the other wire in the opposite direction, I'm going to feed it through. So it looks like that. So I'm pulling from both sides, and I just want to like make this straight before I crimp, because you know it's a component, so it's going to be a really cool little add-in section to my necklace. And I'm just going to get my magical crimping plier in here, being careful not to crush my seed beads. And so the tool does need a little space. When you're doing rings or anything like this, you can see that it's not really tight anymore. So I just do my best to, once I have my crimp tube in the center of the tool, I just do my best to give it a pull before I close down. And so I've pinched the 4 corners of the crimp tube, and now I'm going to fit this back in the opposite direction. And again, I need to be really careful that I'm only chomping down on the crimp tube and not my seed beads. If you break a seed bead in a case like this, you really have to restring it. Then close again, and then I'm just going to turn that into a little bead by going around like this. And there you have it. Really pretty, simple, but really kind of amazing component. And then, you know, I love to make rings that way for design. So that's going in my scrap bag. It's enough to do another component. So look how cool that is. Isn't that the prettiest thing? It's so simple, but it's so effective. So that's going to go into my strung part. And I am actually, I'm not sure if I'm going to make these into components with simple loops or if they're going to go in my stringing. But let's start connecting. Okay, that fits through there, but I know that I'm going to need to have a couple of jump rings here because it really has to turn sideways to wiggle through that ring. And I'm going to need some really small jump rings. So let's make a couple of jump rings. Okay, I have a piece here to do some more of that size as well. So I'm just going to smooth and warm my wire, and I'm going to put this on my plier and just get my first little bend in there. And I'm going to just make a coil, one little turn at a time. These tiny ones, sometimes it's a little tricky to get it started. And I'm going in the wrong direction. My dyslexia. I like my other plier for jump rings because it has a really long bail, and I can just put it in and make jump rings and not have to think about which direction I'm wrapping in. But on this shorter one, you have to wrap your coil so that your jump rings are going off the end. And I just see things opposite, so it causes me a problem sometimes. You get this bail making plier out for the larger jump rings. This is the one that I used for this size, and I really love this plier. It fits my hand really well, and you can just make a nice long coil when you need to make jump rings or even a coil component. So I'm just going to come to where I first wrapped with the flat side of my cutters and just snip one ring at a time all the way up the coil. Okay, and I'm going to take another piece of wire and do the exact same thing on this bail making plier to get my other side, so as I start connecting, everything's ready. See, I did it again. I started wrapping in the wrong direction. I intended to go in the other direction, but on this plier it doesn't matter because there's plenty of space on the barrel on the mandrel to just wrap away. Okay, I had to take a pause, a little bit of noise in the house, but I've done a little bit of the connecting and it's fabulous, you guys. It's so fabulous. So I put 3 of those small jump rings on my T-bar, my handmade T-bar, so that I can turn it sideways and fit it through, and it works really well. I tried it a couple of times even though everything is not connected, and I made a component with my one-step looper and some simple loops out of the flower and a couple of elements from the designer strand. And I did go back and add double jump rings on everything on the pendant part. And on this side, I made another little component, and this is elements from the designer strand, and another little component here, just turning the bead into, like, you know, it's like a bit of a beaded chain. And so I'm going to open this and connect directly to my other handmade bit and just connect everything. And then the rest of this is simple stringing, and of course the clasp is already done because it's the little T-bar that's in the middle. And I can even disconnect my little T-bar while I connect this other side just to, and look how cool that is. It's so pretty. So that's ready to go, and that's my ring, and this is going up this side. So I'm going to open this loop here and attach it to the seed bead and button component that we made. Just slip it right over, maybe. Okay, from here, the stringing has to begin, and I have begun. So let me move some of my little small jump rings. I don't know if I'll need those anymore, and those are my 8/0 seed beads. I have 2 more crimp tubes, and what I did is took my seed beads and just made a mix here. And this is going to, let me start at the beginning. This part here, my little coconut pattern, I did odd numbers with just a dot of gold in between, and then did a coral and gold section, kind of spreading them out, and then went back to a more dense coconut pattern and then spread them out. And then I just used one of the hematite spacers to transition, and I'm going to do the body of the necklace in the seed bead mix that I just created, and that's going to go around the neck. I think this will be really comfortable for the summer and lightweight, and it pulls all the colors of the piece. And I'm just going to do that until I come around to this side here, where I'm going to have a little section of the coral, and that's going to attach right here. So I'll be crimping here and right here. I'll be crimping this onto here and here. So this is really just simple, relaxing stringing, and especially since I just made a little mix here on my mat, I'm just doing it random. So I'm just going to continue like what I was doing, picking up beads until I get my desired length. So I'm going to do this and crimp, and I'll be back to show you how it all came together. It's going to be another one of my fairly long necklaces, and so I'll definitely put some better pictures up. My long necklaces don't fit on my beading mat very well, so I'll put some better pictures up when I'm all finished. And I'm just loving this. This to me, I don't know if any of you have ever been around Florida, but I'm a lifelong Floridian, and I sold my jewelry in beach boutiques. And so, like on Venice Beach and Anna Maria Island, the beach boutiques that have tropical clothing and, beach chic and boho clothing, they always have jewelry, really artisan. Some local coastal artists bring things in, and it's quite expensive. And so I am really thrilled about the way this is turning out, because I think it's going to have that look, even though it's not expensive and it's handmade by me. Not that I'm an artist, but I'm really excited about the way it's looking. This is so gorgeous. I love the way this turned out. So I have all the beading done that goes behind my neck. It is quite long, I realize, but I'm going to try to show you kind of on my mat where everything went. This is the section that I made, adding into that, and then I crimped right here. I did 3 of the hematite diamond cut spacer beads, and then just this little section or block of the beautiful coral. 3 more spacer beads to go into the part that goes around the neck, and coming all the way down to this side where I have my section of coconut heishi discs. And I'm ready to crimp right here, and that's going to get crimped onto my component and my handmade T-bar. So I'm just going to take my crimp tube and feed it on and put that through this loop and make a loop back down through the crimp tube. And this is exactly what I did on the other side, and then feed it through a few beads. I don't know if it goes through those seed beads, but it does go through the coconut beads. And I'm just going to give this a pull, and I did kind of hold this off the edge of my mat because I don't want it to be rigid. I don't want it to be too tight, but I think I have my tension, my spacing pretty good. And I'm going to use my magical crimping plier again right on this end. Just fit it in the center, close, and go in the opposite direction, in squarely in the center. There, I just felt it go in, close again, go around a few times to make a bead. There we have it. And this is absolutely gorgeous. I love all of the interesting, unusual bits to it. I will definitely put this on Gabriella Eva. I think it's going to be the only way to see it. And I'll definitely have this in my next try-on video as well. But it is beautiful. My little natural T-bar. You have to turn it, fit it in there. It does fit, but just get it in there sideways so that it sits like that. And it's just beautiful. It's just so beautiful. I literally cannot wait to wear this piece. I just love all the elements in it. And so, as I said, better pictures will be at the end of the video. So in the description box, you will find links to Didi Beads, and I do have a discount code if you are a new customer to Didi Beads. It does not work on her deluxe bead box or the deluxe check bundle, but about 80% of the non-discounted items on her website, you can use my discount code if you've never shopped there before. And as you see, you're never going to be disappointed. But her next box goes for sale on the 12th of the month. So if you want to try to get it, don't delay, because they do sell out fast. And it's not a subscription. It's first come, first serve. And, you know, we hope they keep selling out so she will increase her quantity, because I do get comments that a lot of you try to get it and it's gone by the time you try to get it. So, you know, she's watching that, and she is a boutique bead business, but she will increase her quantity as needed. So she may be due for that again. I know she just did that, I think, last year. So I thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all in the next video. Ciao, friends.